A group of 10 Republican senators led by Maine's Susan Collins met for 2 hours Monday evening with President Biden to discuss the highly anticipated stimulus package. Now, Collins told reporters outside the White House that the meeting was, quote, excellent and produced a, quote, very frank and very useful discussion.
I wouldn't say that we came together on a package tonight. No one expected that in a 2-hour meeting. But what we did agree to do is to follow up and talk further at the staff level and amongst ourselves and with the president and vice president on how we can continue to work together on this very important issue.
Well, despite the productive meeting, Democrats are signaling that they're ready to move forward with the bill with or without Republican support. Our panel is standing by to discuss. We welcome in Republican strategist Ted Harvey, former Republican Colorado State Senator, and Democratic strategist and attorney Kelly Hyman. Welcome to the program to you both. Thanks so much for joining us. We heard from Susan Collins there, but I want to play for you a soundbite from Senator Bernie Sanders, emphasizing on Sunday that the Democratic Party needs to act now to pass the legislation, even if it means moving forward without Republican support. Watch this.
Democrats have majority because of the fact that we won 2 seats with great candidates in Georgia. But that campaign, in many ways, was a national campaign. And what those candidates said is, yes, we are going to provide checks of $2,000, $1,400 on top of the $600. Yes, we're going to extend unemployment benefits. Yes, we are going to address the needs of working families. The entire Democratic Party came together behind the candidates in Georgia. We made promises to the American people. And if politics means anything, if you're going to have any degree of credibility, you know what? You can't campaign on a series of issues and then after the election, when you get power, say, oh, well, you know what? Change it our mind.
All right, so a lot to say there from Senator Sanders, but Ted, it sounds like he's pretty determined to get his legislation through, and it makes you wonder if that meeting at the White House was really just for show.
Well, this is typical of what the Democrats do. This is what Schumer did and Nancy Pelosi did and Obama did with Obamacare. When they didn't have the votes, the 60 votes necessary to get it through the Senate, they didn't even have a senator there because Ted Kennedy passed away. They broke all of the rules to push it through, despite the fact that the American people did not want it. And that's what they're looking to do this time. They're looking to cheat again and break the rules to do that. And hopefully Senator Manchin from West Virginia will not go along with that. And if my organization, StopJoe.com, has anything to do with it, we're going to put as much pressure on Manchin as we can to make him vote against this outrageous procedural effort by the Democrats to push through a payoff to these Democrat states that have run horrible budgets for 20 years. And this is the way the Democrats are going to pay them off.
Kelly Hyman, I think of the way that they could possibly potentially just push this budget through. It's with the reconciliation, as it's being called, where thus you would only need a simple majority to get there. That path would bring it there to pass the $1.9 trillion spending package that they want for the COVID relief. But then it brings that whole question of, at what point do you stop with that power? You wouldn't even need to talk to Republicans at this point. You could just run the table for the next 4 years. How concerning is that for not just our democracy, but for everyday Americans, Kelly?
Right. I think it's definitely important for us to come together, and I think it's great that there was a meeting at the White House with the president and the Republicans. I think we need to work together. We need to come together and find common ground and help the American people. The American people are struggling personally, professionally, financially, and they need this help. Also, small businesses are struggling. So we need to come together and work together and find common ground and make sure that we pass something to help the American people.
Well, the question is, will that include $2,000 checks? And I mean $2,000 checks, because that was what was promised on the campaign trail. And in fact, Democrats have been trying to sort of backtrack from it. Some on social media, we saw maybe $1,400 checks, and they say you'd add that on top of the $600 checks before. But of course, everything on the internet lives forever. So here's a little montage of campaign promises about those $2,000 checks. Watch.
Send John and the Reverend to Washington Those $2,000 checks will go out the door.
We will be able to pass $2,000 stimulus checks for the people next week.
We'll deliver the $2,000 stimulus checks.
And that begins with the $2,000 stimulus.
When you send me and Reverend Warnock to the Senate, we will pass those $2,000 stimulus checks.
Okay, big promise there, Ted. But now that might not come through. Are there going to be some disappointed voters out there?
Well, I think it's interesting that your guest is asking for unity and moving forward to get this passed when it was Donald Trump that actually came up with the $2,000 checks, not the Democrats. And it was Nancy Pelosi that did everything she could to make sure that it did not get passed. And they did not unify as a country behind that effort that President Trump wanted. And now they're saying, we want unity, we want unity. At the same time, they're pushing forward to actually impeach the president who got 75 million votes. The Democrats are talking out of both sides of their voice, out both sides of their mouth this week as they're pushing forward with this impeachment. Again, they're just going to do everything they can when they have the power to push through their radical leftist agenda.
Got to get to a break, so stay with us if you can, panelists. That is Ted Harvey and Kelly Hyman.
Yeah, we're talking about this. More about the president's legal strategy ahead of next week's impeachment trial. His lawyer laying out new details about how they plan to defend him. We'll tell you what's new and have our panel react right after the break.